consider how this case got to where it is. Because originally Mississippi didn't go as far as saying, let's go for a straight-out attack on Roe v. Wade and say, overrule it. It really didn't. And then what happens is the balance of the court changes.
Right.
And then Mississippi says, here we go. We may have the votes now. That's exactly what Justice Roberts has said the court should never do. That precedent, and he has said this in writing, he said precedent is about the principles that say judges cannot be political and should not be. And that's why precedent matters. That is why Justice Sotomayor made the point she made. That was a message to the justices, not a question to the lawyers, to say, do we understand what we are really about to do here? Because what we're about to do is tell people it's just political. The bench is just political.
You know, Elise, the Supreme Court always is, they're usually mindful of the fact that they do have this power, they do have this authority, but they're not elected. They're appointed. And that's one of the reasons why Roberts has always been such an institutionalist. But here you have, and this is what Justice Sotomayor had to be getting at, here you have a court that has two justices that went through very difficult, very politicized hearings. We saw, of course, what happened with, Republicans just out and out lying about their rules for putting justices on the Supreme Court. They did what they could do legally, right? But that doesn't mean there's not a shadow that's cast on this court right now that makes overturning a 50-year precedent that only 27% of Americans want overturned that much more of a black eye for this institution.
That's something I wondered about, whether the process, the confirmation process, almost radicalizes justices going into assuming the bench and puts them in a political camp because they are forced into that wing. And so something to watch as the evolution of the court. I'm most curious, how well do you think the opposing counsel did in presenting the case that this would destroy precedent? Because if this is going to stand, that's what's going to get Justice Kavanaugh and other conservative judges to side with the institutionalist argument that destroying the precedent is legally damaging.
You know, I thought the lawyers did a fantastic job. This was not a situation where the lawyers didn't come and deliver it from Reichelman to the Solicitor General. They stuck to the law, they stuck to the points, of their brief. I thought they handled the questions really effectively at trying to explain, it is about a woman's freedom, her autonomy, as well as viability. These two things actually are not separable, right, in the viability conversation. Kavanaugh, what was so disturbing about Justice Kavanaugh is he didn't even really deal with precedent. What he said is, these are just two equal interests. Leave it up to the states. Leave it to the ballot box at legislatures. By the way, the Supreme Court that enabled voter suppression coming out of the South Carolina case that has really deeply undermined so many people's ability to get to the ballot box is also now saying these are just two equal interests. The interest of a fetus that is not viable and women's health and ability to control their bodies and make their decisions, so we can just leave it to politics. And the point that the lawyers made was, but this is why we have fundamental rights, because no state should be able to take this away from you. And the most disgusting thing that happened in this, and it was disgusting, was to talk about Brown versus Board of Education and compare it to overruling Roe, because what Brown was saying is...
Who did that?
That came up, Justice Alito in particular, who kept coming back to that and coming back to what did courts do in 1869. I hope that's not our standard for whether or not we support precedent. But this is the point. We were comparing protecting fundamental rights to be free from racial discrimination to overruling a fundamental right of a woman's right to a